My family ambushed me with the roast at a reunion, so I pulled out a folder that blew them apart. Hi, I'm Rowan, 27. And the day my family ambushed me at a reunion, with a public roast disguised as a cautionary tale, was the day I realized just how far people will go to bury their shame inside someone else's story. But I didn't come unarmed. I came with a folder. Let's begin. The first thing you need to know, that I wasn't always the outcast. I used to be the favorite, the so-called golden boy. Straight A's, polite, artsy, but not weird. The kind of kid that made Aunt Gloria brag at church luncheons. Our Rowan will be the first doctor in the family. She'd beam, and I believed her. Until I didn't, because the second I dared to want something they hadn't scripted, poof, I became the family disappointment. I didn't want to go to med school. I wanted to write. And not boring, family legacy stuff either. I wanted to write about mess. The kind of stories where love is complicated and people betray each other. And there's always one relative everyone pretends doesn't exist. Apparently, that relative was going to be me. At first, it was little things. My mom stopped showing off my school awards. Nate, my older brother, started calling me Emo Shakespeare at dinner. Aunt Gloria, my former cheerleader, openly asked if my dreams were code for giving up. The slide was gradual but steep. I moved out at 20, skipped one Christmas, and suddenly I was selfish, ungrateful, and off the rails. Meanwhile, Nate gets a DUI and everyone's like, well, he's going through a phase. They told themselves I was lost. And then they made it true. For 5 years, I stayed away. I wrote, I worked, I lived. Ellie, my younger cousin and the only one who seemed to still care, would text me updates. She was sweet, naive, caught in the middle of a dynasty that punished honesty like it was treason. Then came the reunion. Ellie asked me to come, said Grandma missed me. Grandma, who had started to forget things, who never joined in the judgment, who once gave me her old typewriter and said, write it all down, even the bad stuff, especially the bad stuff. So I showed up. I showed up thinking I'd say hi, hug Grandma, maybe eat some potato salad and sneak out. What I walked into was something else entirely. The welcome banner was crooked. The casserole was lukewarm. And the smiles? Way too wide, like they'd been rehearsing. Aunt Gloria hovered near a portable mic. Nate had his phone out like he was filming a TikTok. My mom greeted me with fake tears and a hug that smelled like desperation and Walgreens perfume. Then Gloria said there would be a special presentation, and I felt something twist in my gut, because when my family says special, what they usually mean is sacrifice. I just didn't realize I was the offering. Should've left the second Gloria said presentation. But, like an idiot, I stayed. I thought they wouldn't. Not now. Not with Grandma here. They absolutely would. It started with Gloria tapping the mic like she was running for PTA president. Before we end today, she trilled, we want to honor someone who taught us a valuable lesson about choices. Then she looked right at me. Phones went up. Nate grinned. Ellie looked like she wanted to evaporate. What followed was not a toast. It was a timeline. A literal timeline. Let's start with 2013, Gloria said, holding up a stack of printed pages like she was reading a eulogy for someone who wasn't dead yet. Rowan turns down med school to write stories on the internet. 2015 drops out of an internship to follow his passion, later moves into a studio apartment with no heat. Laughter, not loud. Worse, controlled. The kind that stings more because it's rehearsed. I stared at my cup of flat lemonade, trying to breathe through the spiral. I should have walked away, should have flipped the table, but instead, I froze, half disbelief, half nuclear level fury. Gloria wasn't done. 2017 Rowan misses his sister's engagement party. 2019 loses job at a publishing firm. 2021 posts a tweet about family being about respect. Instead of showing up to Grandma's 80th birthday, she turned to me. Isn't that right, sweetheart? The crowd tittered. Then my mother chimed in, hand on her heart like some sad soap opera widow. We tried, Rowan, but you pushed us away. You chose this. And Nate walked up, camera still rolling. Come on, bro. Say something. You're the writer. Don't let the fans down. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. Because inside, something had snapped. Not broken, clarified. They thought they had every card. That I was the story they wrote. The failure, the flake, the emotional footnote in their perfect family saga. But I had my own story. And I'd brought the receipts, literally. Without a word I stood, walked to my bag, and pulled out a thick, blue folder. Tabs sticking out like bookmarks in a bomb. Gloria's smile twitched. "What's that?" she asked, voice tightening. I didn't answer, just stepped behind the mic. I wasn't planning to speak, I said, voice steady. "But since we're doing timelines, let's do one of mine." I opened the folder. 2008 Gloria withdraws $6,000 from grandma's account for a roof repair that never happened. Here's the bank record and the contractor's invoice showing no job was ever scheduled. The laughter stopped. Next page. 2012 Nate crashes dad's car. I take the fall. Lose my license. My scholarship. Gloria, you told the insurance I was driving because Nate was already on probation. Dead silence. 2016 Maddie's wedding. I wasn't too depressed to come. I wasn't invited. Here's her email calling me a bad vibe. Eyes widened. Ellie covered her mouth. I flipped another page. 2019 Gloria gets grandma to co-sign a second mortgage to help Nate's business. Business fails in 3 months. Grandma's still paying now. Gloria was red. Nate had stopped filming. Mom's face was paper white. I closed the folder. "You wanted a performance," I said. "You just got one." And then, a ghost rising from the ashes. Grandma stood up. Every head turned. And what she said next changed everything. Grandma moved slow, but steady. Cane in one hand, eyes locked on Gloria like she was seeing her for the first time, not as a daughter, but as a stranger who'd stolen something sacred. "I trusted you," Grandma said, voice clear, unwavering. "And you lied to me." 5 words. That's all. But they hit harder than anything in my folder. Gloria stammered. "Mom, I only ever tried to help." Rowan twisted everything. He always. Grandma raised her hand, silencing her like a gavel. "Don't you dare put this on him." A hush fell across the lawn. Kids stopped playing. Forks froze midair. Even Nate, usually quick with a joke or jab, looked like he'd forgotten how his legs worked. "I've seen the statements. The withdrawals. The mortgage. You used me." Her voice trembled now, not with age, but with fury. "And the worst part is I knew. Deep down, I always knew. But I let myself believe the stories you told, because it was easier than facing the truth." She turned to me then, just for a second, and I swear, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen from anyone in that family. Pride. Then she sat back down, folded her hands in her lap, and stared straight ahead like nothing else needed to be said. The silence was unbearable. Maddie was fake smiling into her wine. Nate had quietly closed his camera app. "Mom." She was blinking like she was trying to reboot her whole worldview. Finally, someone coughed. Then Ellie stood. She didn't say anything, just started taking photos. Quiet clicks as she documented every reaction, every twitch of guilt, every downcast eye. Gloria tried to recover, waving her hands. "This is character assassination. Fabricated nonsense. None of this is fake," I cut in. "But if you think it is, I'd be happy to walk you through each document, or we can let Grandma's lawyer do it. I still have his number." More shifting. Some of my cousins suddenly remembered appointments. Maddie slunk off to the edge of the park, phone pressed to her ear. In a fake call. Nate, gone. Just vanished. I didn't chase him. I had no interest in chasing ghosts. Instead, I walked back to my seat, slid the folder into my bag, and exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't, because the fallout had only just begun. You'd think after detonating a truth bomb the size of a Buick, the family would go nuclear, shouting, finger pointing, someone flinging a casserole, but nope, they scattered quietly, like the air had gone radioactive and everyone was trying not to breathe too loud. Mom said nothing, just sat there, blinking, like someone had unplugged her thoughts mid-sentence. Gloria, she looked brittle, not broken to proud for that, but brittle, like if you tapped her shoulder too hard, she'd shatter into rehearsed apologies and passive-aggressive debris. I didn't stick around for cleanup, didn't wait for someone to come talk things through or suggest we all move forward. I hugged Grandma, who held on like she'd been waiting years to do it, and walked away. By the time I got home, the adrenaline was gone, replaced by something heavier, not regret, not guilt, emptiness, like I'd opened every wound just to prove they existed, only to realize no one ever brought bandages. I collapsed onto my couch, folder still in my bag, and stared at the ceiling. What now? That was rock bottom. Not the betrayal, not the humiliation, but the cold realization that no matter how loud I screamed the truth, the silence afterward was still mine to live in. For a few days, I drifted, ignored texts, muted group chats, let the voicemails pile up from relatives who weren't part of it but felt bad anyway. Some apologized. Some tried to spin it. One cousin actually said, "We didn't mean to hurt you," as if intent ever stopped a wound from bleeding. But one person did show up. Ellie. She knocked on my door 3 days later, holding 2 coffees and a slice of peach pie from my favorite bakery. Didn't say anything at first. Just handed me the pie and sat beside me on the floor like we were kids hiding from thunder. Eventually she whispered, "I always thought I'd be the one to explode. But I never had the guts." I looked at her, tears in her eyes, fingers trembling from holding back years of quiet. "You weren't weak," I told her. "You were surviving." She smiled through it. "But you lived." That line stuck with me. The next morning, I opened my laptop for the first time in weeks, stared at the blinking cursor, let my fingers hover above the keys like I was asking permission from something sacred. Then I started writing. Not about the reunion, not about them. About characters who rebuild from the rubble. Quiet people with loud truths. About a boy who brings the wrong casserole to a family dinner and leaves with his dignity intact. I didn't know it then, but that story, it was about to change everything. I posted the story anonymously on a small lit magazine I used to read back in college. No expectations, no plan, just a quiet release of something that had been pressing on my chest like a weight I couldn't name. It was called The Folded Chair, named after the one I always ended up sitting in at reunions. The one no one wanted, tucked in the corner like a punishment. The story was simple. A guy brings the wrong dish to a family dinner, gets humiliated, but instead of shrinking, he stands up, leaves, and never looks back. He starts over, not with fanfare, but with peace. The end. I logged off. The next morning, my inbox had 50 messages. Found this on a friend's feed. Hit me like a truck. Did you write this? Because. Same. My family did this to me. Thank you for putting it into words. By the end of the week, the story had been shared over 10,000 times. Reddit picked it up. Twitter reposted it with captions like, "When healing isn't poetic, it's real." Tumblr had screenshots floating around with people analyzing the last paragraph like it was Shakespeare. Then came the email. Subject line, "Loved your story. Want a column?" It was the editor of the Lit Mag. She said my piece struck a nerve. That people were hungry for honest stories. That if I had more, she'd publish them. I didn't even hesitate. I said yes. I called the column The Folded Chair, a nod to the story that started it all. Each week, I wrote something new. Short essays about family, silence, shame, found connections. I never used names. Didn't need to. The emotions were universal, raw, real. People resonated. One post was about emotional invoices, tallying up all the invisible labor we give in relationships and how rarely we get paid back in respect. Another was about family myths, how some relatives would rather destroy you than admit you've outgrown the lie they tell themselves. My inbox filled again, this time with stories. Strangers pouring out their own versions of what I'd lived. A teacher from Ohio, a nurse from Atlanta, a dad who hadn't spoken to his son in 10 years, now trying to find the words. The column exploded. A podcast reached out for an interview. A literary agent emailed asking if I'd consider a book. A radio station invited me to guest host a segment about redefining family. I said yes to the book, but only on one condition. I need to write one more chapter, I told the agent. A final one. What's it called? She asked. I smiled. The Disappointment. And I meant it. But not the way they thought. The disappointment wasn't revenge. Not really. It was a love letter to clarity. A goodbye to pretending. A final, clean break from the narrative they tried to wrap around me like a straitjacket. I didn't write about the reunion in detail, no need. I wrote about the feeling, the sting of realizing that the people who raised you never actually saw you, that they were in love with the version of you that never existed, and when you stopped performing, they grieved like you died. I wrote about Ellie and peach pie, about coffee on balconies, about grandma's bird feeder and her offhand comment one day while I told her about a character I was writing. "You always had a way with words," she said. "We just didn't know how to hear you." It wasn't an apology, but it was enough. When the book came out, it wasn't a bestseller. No viral blow-up, just steady praise, quiet shares, word of mouth. It found its people. A high school English teacher wrote to say she put it on her senior syllabus. A therapist asked to use an excerpt in group counseling. A queer kid from Idaho DM'd me. I showed this to my mom. She didn't say anything, but she made pancakes the next morning. That's a start, right? Yes, that was a start. Then came the letter, handwritten, no return address, just a name, Nate. I almost tossed it, but curiosity is a stubborn little thing. It was short, sloppy handwriting, defensive in tone, like he wanted to punch a wall, but settled for a pen. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Everyone's mad at me now. Gloria's not speaking to me. Mom won't take my calls. You burned everything down and just walked away. But part of me thinks maybe you were right. I don't get it, but I'm trying. No apology, just confusion. But for Nate, that was progress. I folded it, tucked it in a drawer, not out of spite, but because I wasn't ready. And that was okay, because healing isn't a sprint. It's a spiral. You circle back, hit the same old bruises, but each time, they hurt a little less. Meanwhile, my life kept moving. The second book did better than the first. I got invited to speak at a small literary festival. Ellie came with me. We shared a motel room, stayed up eating gas station snacks, and practicing my reading out loud like we were kids doing homework. Afterward, she hugged me and said, "You didn't just rewrite your story, you rewrote the rules." She was right, but the past? The past hadn't gone anywhere, and I found that out the moment I got a message from an old friend, Devin, high school buddy. We hadn't talked in years. "Hey, just a heads up. Your brother Nate's been asking around about you. Weird questions. Might be nothing. Just thought you should know." That pit in my stomach, the one I thought was long gone, came roaring back. Because people like Nate and Gloria, they don't stay quiet out of guilt. They stay quiet when they're plotting. And I knew right then, this wasn't over. I called Devin that night. No small talk. What kind of questions? Devin didn't sugarcoat it. Where you're working, if you're still writing, if you ever recorded phone calls. He kept saying things like, "Rowan's getting bold lately. Someone should remind him of consequences." My blood ran cold. They weren't trying to understand. They were circling the wagons. I hung up, walked to my desk, and stared at the folder. The same blue one. Still there. Still full. I hadn't touched it in months, but suddenly, I wasn't just keeping it. I was using it, because if they wanted to play dirty, I'd play precise. See, I didn't go full drama. No angry tweets. No live-streamed expos. Instead, I did what I always do. I started digging. Remember when I said I interned at a law office in college? Mostly filing, transcription, grunt work. But one lawyer once told me, if you want to take someone down without making a sound, don't follow their mouth. Follow their paperwork. So I did. I started with Gloria. Pulled her property records, her LLC filings, tax liens, founding consistencies, shell companies, a co-signed loan with a guy named Dale, her ex from high school who had a bankruptcy filed the same year her consulting firm suddenly went cash only. Then Nate. Oh, Nate. He'd launched a financial coaching brand, sold online courses, promised passive income and real estate success. Except, reviews told a different story. Ghosted clients, canned PDFs, broken promises. One woman, Teresa, filed a PayPal claim for $3,000 after he vanished post-payment. Her screenshots included his full name, number, and one killer quote. "Don't worry, brother's a writer. He taught me how to make stuff look legit." That was it. That was the match. Wasn't burning bridges anymore. Was building a bonfire, but I wouldn't do it alone, because, while I'd been quietly rebuilding, Ellie had been watching everything, and she had her own folder, Ellie's folder came in a flash drive, labeled for you if they come for you. Inside, gold. Voice memos, phone call recordings, even screenshots of group chats I never knew existed, ones where Gloria and Nate plotted how to discredit me after the reunion. One file stood out, a recorded call, muffled but clear. Gloria, if Rowan wants to burn it all down, fine. Let's give him something real to cry about. Nate, we just need a story. Say he's unstable. Say he steals ideas. That's what Mom used to tell people, right? Laughter. I sat there, headphones on, heart pounding. Then I did what I always do. I wrote. Not a tweet. Not an essay. A dossier. Every shady business deal. Every scam. Every lie. Every document. Every record. I called it the rewrite. But this wasn't just for closure. This was strategy. 2 copies. One sent to the IRS with a quiet little letter attached. The other, to a podcast host named Cassidy, known for investigative deep dives into small-town scandals. She read it in 2 days and called me herself. Rowan, I don't say this lightly. This could be massive. You want to go on record? I paused, then nodded. Let's finish the story. But first, the reunion. They sent another invite. Same picnic park. Same banner. Same table. Only this time, they flipped my place card upside down. Cute. I showed up late, folderless, calm. Ellie beside me, sipping coffee like this was a brunch date. Then Gloria, mic in hand, gave her usual performance. Family, unity, forgiveness. And then she called on me. Again. Rowan, care to share what you've been working on? I stood. No folder this time, I said. Just a phone, and I tapped send. A T once. Everyone's phones buzzed. The rewrite, scheduled to drop publicly. Blog link, backup sites, pre-sent to reporters. Already viral. I watched their faces drain. Mom, Maddie, Gloria, Nate. Screenshots, audio, financials. Every lie laid bare. Gloria shouted, "This is slander." Ellie stood. "It's recorded." I was there. Then Grandma rising again, voice steady. "I've seen enough. I want my keys back. I want you gone." And just like that, the dynasty cracked. Gloria lost her board seats. Nate's business collapsed under lawsuits. Maddie lost her PR job. Mom vanished from my inbox. And me? I published the rewrite, dedicated to Ellie, and anyone ever told they were too much or not enough. They called me the disappointment. I made it my brand, because when you stop asking for a seat at the table, you bring your own.